Indian fever. You can be part of the fun. You're the winner at every game. That's where the excitement begins. So catch Indian fever. Be a believer with the Cleveland Indians.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the February 13th, 2019 Lake County Sentinel Podcast. The traditional cough. I'm your host, publisher and sports editor of the Lake County Sentinel, Tim Shirer. I'm glad to be with you tonight. We've got some sports topics to talk about in the first 15 minutes, and then we'll go to news and politics. But as we speak, the Cavs are playing. They're playing the Brooklyn Nets right now. And Kevin Love is sitting out tonight. He played on Monday, but he's sitting out tonight. They're easing him back slowly. I can understand that. You don't want a foot to become a problem, even more of a problem than it already is. I mean, he already missed a lot of time, so why rush him back? It's not like they're going to make the playoffs this year. But they're up right now by 6 points in the third period, so that's good. So this is a chance for them to win 2 games in a row. They have not won 2 games in a row. They did it one time this year. Now they're trying to do it for a second time. So both streaks were at home too. So that's a real good thing. But the Monsters, who began last night's play in 7th place in the North Division of the American League, won. They beat first place Rochester 5-2 last night, moving into 6th place. They play next on Friday in Belleville. They'll play the Senators at 7 o'clock and have another chance to move up. The Senators are in 5th place, just 1 point ahead of the Monsters. The Monsters have 52 points. Belleville has 53 points. So they have a chance to move up. And that's excellent. Then they will be 1 spot out of the playoffs because the top 4 teams in the American League make the playoffs in each division. So there's 4 divisions, 16 teams will make the playoffs, and they'll go from there. So the Monsters, they took a good positive step forward last night, beating a really good team 5-2. So that's a good sign that the offense played well. And of course, the defense must have played well, only giving up 2 goals also. And then we'll move on to the Icebreakers. The Icebreakers will be in action both Friday and Saturday at Menor Ice Arena. And against the Carolina Thunderbirds. The Thunderbirds bring the league's best record into Menor Ice Arena. They have 100 points on the year. They've only lost 4 games. The Icebreakers, on the other side, have the worst record in the Federal Hockey League and only have 29 points. That's rough. So it would be nice if the Icebreakers could upset them. They have 4 losses. The Icebreakers have given them two. So it's pretty interesting for a team that is running away with it. 2 of their 4 losses have come to the worst team in the league. So hey, maybe the Icebreakers have their number. We're going to look at some baseball news now. There are a lot of things going on. Doug Fister officially retired today from baseball. Fister had played 10 seasons in the major leagues. He played, he had some injury problems the last couple years, but he came up with Seattle. He was traded in 2011 to Detroit. He had a couple good years in Detroit. Then he moved on to Washington, where he had a really nice season in 2014, where he was 16-6 with a 2.41 ERA. He struck out 98 and only issued 24 base on balls, giving up 153 hits in 164 innings. That was his best year. He came in 8th place in the Cy Young voting in the National League that year, but then he had injuries. The injuries began the next year. He only had one healthy season after that. He pitched in 32 games in 2016 with the Houston Astros, but then he just had injuries again the last couple of years. He was with Boston, then last year he was with Texas. You know, he went 1-7. So I guess he had just had enough. His service days, I'm trying to see here if he made it. Did he make it? No, he did not. He's not fully vested, but I'm sure he'll still get a pretty good pension. He had 8 years and 158 days in the major leagues, so it must have really been where he just didn't think he could do it anymore, because if he could go one more year, he could get really close. He would only be, if he could have played this year, he would have only been 22 days short going into next season of being fully vested. So it must have been where he just couldn't do it anymore. But Pfister, not an overwhelming pitcher, but not a bad pitcher in his career for the last 10 years with 6 different ball clubs: Seattle, Detroit, Washington, Houston, Boston, and Texas. So he officially announced today that he was going to retire. So good luck to him in the future. You know, he got to play Major League Baseball. All right. I mean, let's be honest. Most of us who have never played would love to have played. If those of us who love the sport. The Phillies signed their best pitcher, and they're young. He's their number one. Jake Arrieta's not a number one. He was never a number one. Jake Arrieta had 1 year and he was overrated, I thought. But it was a very smart move by Philadelphia to to sign Aaron Nola. Because what they did was they took a bunch of arbitration years away, and if he completes the contract and hits all of the bonuses, it could end up where he makes $56.75 million. I mean, he's pretty much guaranteed $45 million. The club option is for $12 million, and I believe that will be 2023, I believe. So the Phillies have a really good pitcher for the next 5 seasons. Because at this point, barring injury, I don't see them, not picking up the option on Nola in 2023 unless he completely collapses or he gets injured, as I said. So I think that's a really good signing for the Phillies. As it came out yesterday, that Jacob deGrom and his agent and the Mets have agreed that if they can't come up with a contract extension before the season begins, then they will not negotiate during the season. And, I think that's a good thing. Because I don't think that ever works out when contracts being negotiated during the year. It's not a good thing. I think it's a good look for the player, and it's not a good look for the club. So I think that who knows? The Mets will probably re-sign him. They got a lot of money, big market. so they shouldn't have a problem. Supposedly, the Yankees are discussing an extension with Luis Severino. The Giants acquired a catcher, acquired Trevor Gott he's a pitcher from the Nationals, and in return for cash considerations, Johnny Cueto has been injured. He's still injured, and now they moved him to the 60-day DL. Gott had been designated for assignment by the Nationals. He's a right-hander, and he throws hard. He's a sinker baller. But if you listen to the Cleveland media, Gott is a bum because he was DFA'd. So anybody that is DFA'd is no good, according to a couple guys on the radio. The one guy, he knows better because he actually knows baseball. The other guy has no clue about baseball. So, of course, he would think just because a guy's DFA'd, he's no good anymore, which is a lot of times not the truth. It's a paper move almost, and it has to be done sometimes. So, those are some moves in baseball. Oakland re-signed Brett Anderson, which is a good thing. The Royals, which is in the Central Division moved, announced on Wednesday that they signed left-handed reliever Jake Dykman to a 1-year contract, and that their right-hander Jesse Hahn has been transferred to the 60-day disabled list to make room for Dykman on their roster. These are all moves that may not seem important, but they could turn out to be very important. The two big prizes, three really, are still out there. Dallas Keuchel, Manny Machado, and Bryce Harper. Spring training's open, and these guys are still unsigned. I'll tell you, I never remember this happening in baseball. And I think I think part of it's on, the part of the player's fault, and part of it's the owner's fault. The player's fault is pure greed, and I guess with the owners, it's greed also. So when you got two groups that are driven by pure greed, you might have late contract signings. Okay, and that seems to be what's happening right now in Major League Baseball. The players can complain all they want, but let them go out and get a real job, and then we'll see them complain. All right. Oh, I see here that Jacoby Ellsbury is delayed because of injury. His arrival at Yankees camp will be delayed because of injury. Boy, what a shock. This guy's been hurt. He's been hurt so much the last few years. I mean, it really bothers me to see the Yankees have a bad contract, And then I also noticed in fantasy sports rankings, Jose Ramirez is listed as the top third baseman in baseball in fantasy rankings. How about that? So the Indians have the top shortstop in fantasy rankings and the top third baseman. They also have pitchers, Bauer's in the top 5, or Kluber's in the top 5. Bauer's probably in the top 10 or 15. Okay, maybe 20. But they don't have anything. They had a terrible offseason. Such garbage. They didn't have a great offseason. I'm not going to say that. But they still have a hell of a lot of talent to win this division and to make noise in the playoffs, which they could possibly do. Of course, I don't want to hear these people back in October who now have said they had no chance. When they make the playoffs, and if they play well, I don't want to hear you say you were behind them all the way. When we come back, we're going to talk about some news and politics. on the 2013 to February 13th, 2019 Lake County Sentinel Podcast. I'm your host, Tim Shirer. We talk sports for the first 15 minutes, and now we're going to talk some politics. The other night we went over a bunch of candidates for Democratic candidates who have already declared their candidacy for president. And we all knew there were a bunch more out there that hadn't declared. And we've got some other, things to talk about, but we're going to talk about those. But I want to start off with a local political announcement. It was announced earlier this morning, appointments to the committees on the state legislature in Ohio, and local representative, local Lake County representative John Rogers of the we are in the 60th district, was named the ranking member of the House Ways and Means Committee. He's the highest ranking member on the panel. And in a statement, Rogers said, "I am both honored and very thankful for this opportunity and look forward to working with Chairman Schaefer and my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to draft common sense tax policy that will benefit Ohio's working families, small businesses, and retirees." He went on to say, "It's important that we work together to ensure the responsible stewardship of the taxpayers' hard-earned dollars." Representative Rogers, who is serving his fourth term, will also serve on the House Criminal Justice, Finance, and Public Utilities Commissions, as well as the House Subcommittee on Criminal Sentencing. Committee meetings are always open to the public and are scheduled before or after House floor sessions. This is great that our local representative is the ranking member on the House Ways and Means Committee for the Democrats. That's a very powerful position. And it really, I can't think of a better guy than John Rogers to get this appointment. He's a good man. I'm not going to sit there and say I know him as a friend or something. I've met him several times. I do know people who do know him. He's from Wickliffe. I do know people that know him, and they think really highly of him. I know he's done some really good things in his time in the state legislature. He's a really good man, and I'm really glad that he got this appointment because he'll do good things in this position because he really cares. You get a lot of guys on these committees that only want him to say they're on a committee. He is on there because he really cares and wants to do good things for the state of Ohio. And let's face it, his local area in Lake County. That's what we elected him for, to do things for us. And that's what he'll do. So he can really make an impact being on the House Ways and Means Committee. It's very important. And the other committees he's on. But being on the ranking member on the House Ways and Means Committee is huge. So now we'll move on to talk about some more of the candidates. Tonight we're going to talk about some of the candidates who haven't declared yet that might. They've organized some exploratory committees, which I think is ridiculous. Exploratory committee. Really? You're either going to do it or you're not. I guess the exploratory committee maybe is okay. I have no chance, so then you don't run. That's what they're exploring, I guess. The two here I see. We'll go to alphabetical order. We got. I'm not exactly sure how to say his name even. Pete Buttigieg. He's the mayor of South Bend, Indiana. He's 37. I've heard about him. There is a segment that really likes this guy. I don't know a lot about him. I'll have to read more about him, but I don't know. And then there's Kirsten Gillibrand. I don't like her. I'll admit it. I don't like her. I think if she was or Kirsten Gillibrand, if she was Kirk Gillibrand, I wouldn't like her, because I know it's going to sound old-fashioned, but I still think it has a place in society. She's not loyal, okay? I don't think she's loyal. I think she did what she wanted for political gain, and I think that, I don't trust her. I don't like her. The Clintons helped her a lot to get the state, the U.S. Senator in New York, replacing Hillary Clinton, but then she kind of turned on them. I don't like people that aren't loyal. I don't like people that turn on people. So if she runs and if she's the nominee, I might have to hold my nose to vote for her, simply because I'll have to vote for her to get Donald Trump out. But I really am not a fan of Kirsten Gillibrand. Okay. And like I said, it has nothing to do with that she's a woman. It has to do with, I don't think she's loyal. Okay. So then we have some of these other people who are listed here that may run. We've got Michael E. Earth. He was an independent. He ran for governor in Florida as an independent, didn't win. And then he's an architect, artist, builder. Excuse me. He was born in England, so I don't know how he can run, actually. And then we have Harry Braun. He is a renewable energy consultant and researcher. He ran for U.S. representative in Georgia, did not win. Ran for president in 12 and 16, obviously did not win. He was an independent candidate for president in 2004, Democratic nominee for U.S. representative in 84 and 86. He's had a long record of not winning, so I think we don't have to worry about him too much. Harry Braun, this might be the only time you heard his name. Ken Nowicki Jr., he's from San Diego. He's a documentary filmmaker and motivational speaker and peace activist. So he'll get destroyed by the right because they don't like peace. They like violence. So, maybe he's a good guy. Maybe he'll actually run. Then we have Robbie Wells. He was an independent candidate for president in 2016. Constitutional candidate in 2012. Marianne Williamson. She was an independent candidate for U.S. representative in California in 2014. She's a spiritual teacher, author, lecturer, and entrepreneur, and activist. All right, so she's 66, but her picture looks like it probably was taken when she was 40. So, okay, so that kind of makes you, I don't know if she hasn't provided another picture. If this is a picture she provided, that tells me all I need to know about her. She's worried about looks, which I don't care if she is ugly as sin, if she knows what she's doing, if she's a good candidate. So that shouldn't matter. But the picture is pretty old, I think, because she doesn't look 66 in the picture, unless she looks really good. She might look really good, which shouldn't matter, and it doesn't matter. I'm just commenting on the picture here, not anything else. It doesn't matter one bit if she's a good candidate. She might be a great candidate. Well, I don't know. Andrew Yang is the last of the independent candidates. He's an entrepreneur and founder of Venture for America. He's from Schenectady, New York. He's 44. So that's the last of those guys. Another candidate that hasn't declared yet, says he's going to make his decision within the next month, is Beto O'Rourke from Texas. He nearly beat Ted Cruz in the senatorial election this past year. He was elected 3 times to Congress, and he ran a really good Senate campaign, came very close to winning. He didn't beat Cruz. I mean, remember, this is Texas. It's a highly, highly hateful and Republican state. So for a Democrat to almost beat Ted Cruz is unbelievable. So he's a progressive liberal, or sometimes even referred to as a centrist. So that's a good thing, I think. That's the kind of guy that might be able to get independent voters. A lot of people think what the Democrats need right now is a centrist. Of course, you got a lot of real left-wing people that believe we need anything but a centrist. So we'll see. It'll all work out in the primaries. But I think Beto O'Rourke is a very interesting candidate. And I was watching him after that rally the other night in El Paso. I believe that was on Monday night. Just the way he kind of talked. I mean, I wasn't around during it. I've only seen clips of John Kennedy. But something about him reminded me of John Kennedy. Just the gleam in his eye or something. So it made me take a look and say, hey, this guy might be a viable candidate too. I think there's a good amount of candidates on the Democratic side. So I think that's a really good thing. And I don't think there were many in 2016. And that's one of the reasons we have what we have in the White House now. But we're going to finish off with a stock market update. The market closed today up 177 points at 25,543.27. Like I said, I meant not 177 points, 117.51 points at 25,543. And so that our counter at this point is in Barack Obama's time. At this point in his administration, the stock market had gone up 4,327 points and 0.26 points for 34.81% increase. Donald Trump, it's gone up 5,625 points, 0.27 points, and that is a 22% increase. So what that means, people, is the stock market has gone up quicker under Barack Obama than it has under Donald Trump. And we'll leave you with that tonight. That's the end of our podcast for tonight. We'll be back tomorrow. I'm at 7 o'clock. So I hope you'll join us. Thanks a lot, everybody, and have a good night.